61 years of development cooperation is a long time for a partnership, and that's a very solid basis for our cooperation. Today, of course, COVID-19 is the big challenge for Nepal, for Germany, for the European Union, for the world. That's why we're concentrating on how to help Nepal in the acute crisis. We have just announced that we would be ready to offer 10 million euro additional grant for the Nepali health system. But of course, the second question is, how do we move on from here? Once COVID is overcome, once we have found a solution to the health crisis, how do we then deal with the economic crisis? And in this case, if you ask me about the UNDP, I think that German priorities, European Union priorities, and UNDP priorities very much coincide. If I look at the UNDP priorities right now, they all coincide with what we do. For instance, on governance. Yes, Germany is very much engaged in the new type of governance for Nepal to counsel on the federalism issue, on how to increase federalization in Nepal. We work with local governments since a long time, and we are now working with the other donors and the Nepali government in increasing the political ownership at the local level. The second thing is actually green recovery. I think that's an important issue for a long time. We're in a garden, but that's only a symbol. Germany is very interested in having a green recovery, not only in the world, in our own country, but in Nepal as well. So we have been very active in helping Nepal to access the climate fund resources to actually come towards a green recovery and issue a self-sustaining economy here. And in this we coincide with the UNDP because UNDP has been the partner for accessing the climate fund. And the third issue is actually social protection. Germany has been very active in introducing a health insurance scheme for the non-formal, the informal sector. And that very much coincides with the efforts of the Nepali government to introduce social protection issues. But there are a lot of issues which will need to be discussed. And on this issue, I think we also work together because that's also a series of intervention where UNDP comes in. And fourthly, digital technology, which is UNDP's fourth pillar. We don't call it that way, but we're very much interested in working with UNDP and the Nepali government, of course, on professional training. That's, I think, the key to the future of Nepal. Getting jobs, getting qualified workers for qualified jobs, and tuning in the Nepali economy and Nepali industry to the world environment, to the trade, to make it export savvy, and for that you need training. So the accelerator labs of the UNDP are something we very much welcome, but we work also on a scheme on our own, but we'd like to have Nepal benefit from the experiences Germany has in professional training. Well, I coincide with the Nepali government in saying that the main thing for the future is to attract foreign direct investment. That is the key to good jobs and to linking the economy to the world. And I would only say one recommendation. It's rather practical and not so big, but I think it would send a huge signal outside. Last year, the Nepali government has increased the threshold, the minimum threshold for foreign direct investment from 5 million to 50 million rupees. I think that is a mistake. We have urged all donors, not just Germany, but all donors, and the United Nations have urged Nepal to reconsider this issue, and I would urge it again. I think this is not a big issue, but it's a huge signal, because you have so many small investors who come with a sum exactly between 5 million and 50 million, and to try out something new and to look where the niches are for Nepali industry, be it IT, be it production of motor cars or of motorcycles, or many other things, health. All these are rather small investments and they can grow. But if you make this threshold so high, you send the wrong signal. And I think all these laws which Nepal has rightly introduced to encourage foreign investment are not working if you give it at the same time that signal. So my clear recommendation would lower that threshold back to where it was, to 5 million rupees. Learning is not a relationship where someone teaches and the other one learns. We learn as much from Nepal as Nepal might learn from us or the European Union. But one thing where we are trying, I'm as ambassador, are trying to have a conversation with Nepal is about professional training. This is, together with foreign direct investment, the key to connecting the Nepali industry with the world, to make it export savvy. You need quality products, and for that you need quality workers. Germany is the champion of exports worldwide. We have the biggest export proportion in our economy worldwide, and that is because the quality of our industry is recognized, and it's based on quality workers. This system of training workers without a university degree, but at a lower level, and make them capable of understanding what an engineer wants of them and returning back to the engineer the experiences from the work floor. That is what makes German quality. And I think Nepal is a country which can do the same thing. They have the Newari culture of very fine arts and artifacts. There is something which is similar in a certain way. So we have been creating an initiative through the Nepali industry, not the government, but the industry, to connect Nepali industry with German industry on the issue of training workers. Because that is the German experience. If you can only train workers well if you involve the industry will produce them. So in Germany you have the major part of the training costs for any young person training for an industry, which is borne by the industry. It's not borne by the state. The industry invests in training, and that's something which we're trying to bring also to some enlightened industrialists in Nepal. I think with the help of the government and of them, we can achieve something which can grow in the future. It's very small right now, but it can grow in the future. So that's, I think, where we have this conversation with Nepal on creating a quality-oriented industry which is able to compete on the world market. The German industry invests 27 billion every year in public training, and only 5 billion comes from the German state. So 27 against 5. This is a huge proportion where the private sector has also the say. And the people in Germany, they train in the industry. 2/3 of the time of the young person for 15, 16 years old are spent in the industry, being trained by the workers on the shop, and only 1/3 is in school to learn the abstract things. And that is run together. So because the industry pays so much, they can also say how the training should be run, and they produce their own quality workers for their own thing. Of course, in Nepal, industry is used to wait for the state to produce the workers in the state system, and then they look at these things and they say, oh, it's maybe okay, maybe not, but they only take the product once it's finished. I mean, it's a person, it's not a product, but it's a skilled person, but it's skilled in a way which may not be actually what the industry needs. So to get the industry to invest in that, I think there are two things which we are trying to do. One is, of course, to build on enlightened industrialists. The question of training industry, training workforces, could be of benefit to both a German firm and a Nepali firm. A German investor tells me that the main obstacle, apart from the thing I just said about the threshold, is the lack of skilled workers. So they're interested too in building up a workforce in Nepal which could then work in hydropower or in a brewery or in something which is capable of producing world-class products. So if we get the two interests together, it's business interests, it's not government money. It's only my time which I invest, not money. The money has to come from the industry, but the benefit should also go to the industry. I think this can be a historical moment where the benefit of the industry can actually work for the benefit of the worker. Now we need a benevolent government to accompany that, but my idea is to start getting the industry to get involved with their own business interest. Enlightened business interests can help the country. Well, UNDP is a worldwide organization, and Germany supports UNDP massively. I think we are the biggest donor with a huge core financing, but also very much specified financing for certain projects. And recently, Germany has been turning to UNDP even more than before, because we think that it can be more efficient if donors pool their resources and go through a big organization like UNDP. But there is a drawback. As I said, we agree completely with UNDP on the big priorities and the strategies. But how do we do it on the ground? That is very often the big question. So I think that while we agree on the big priorities, we need to have more connection between the local level, Nepali level, and New York or Geneva or so on. I think we talk too much yet about the big priorities, green recovery and social protection and this kind of thing. But then what to do actually on the ground? That's not so obvious. So my wish would be that we intensify this thinking about what actually works on the ground and what not. That I think can only be done in cooperation with the Nepali government. They are the ones who have to actually make the policies in the country and explain to the voter, explain to the citizen what to do. We can only be a partner. And I think if UNDP were to take up these global issues and localize them, that would be important. One thing I think which I haven't mentioned, which is I think key, the third key to what Nepali can become, that's migration. Migration is the underrated challenge and also opportunity for Nepal. If you know that almost a third of Nepal's workforce is actually abroad, it's something between, estimates go from 3.5 to even 6 million. We don't know exactly, no one really knows, but it's a huge sum, if it's a huge amount of people, if you think that the workforce in Nepal is about 8.5 million. So it's more than a third, which is actually abroad. And we see that with COVID-19, the biggest issue was these migrant workers coming back and then having to be received in the country and so on. So migration is a global phenomenon. It's not just a Nepali phenomenon. It's not an Indian phenomenon. It's not a Gulf country or Thai or whatever, or Malaysia, sorry, not Thai, Malaysia phenomenon. It's something where we have to stick together. And there are different forms of migration. Europe is just very much concerned by migration through Africa into Europe for illegal workforces, and we try to deal with that. But migration is a global issue, and I think UNDP as a global institution should be able to work with ILO and other institutions and make this a global issue. I don't think that Nepal will be able to handle migration just by itself, nor any partner only here. So being a global organization and being a global partner would be an issue when UNDP can bring something to the country.